We all have a Genesis story. Not just who we are, but how we came to be. In this episode of my life, I have been writing and reading and writing and reading and reading and writing about all things UU ministry. And somehow I am supposed to maybe, eventually, somehow locate myself and my own ministry in this complex constellation of our 11-syllable faith called Unitarian Universalism. Whew. The genesis of my ministry has taken place during a global rupture of turmoil and disruption, a time of the COVID-19 pandemic, rising authoritarianism, and catastrophic climate crisis, a time of economic polarization and widening wealth inequities, a time of insurrections and aggressive anti-Semitism, with bans on books and bans on reproductive health care. A time of protest for the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and other Black lives lost. A time of anti-immigrant and anti-trans rhetoric that has fueled fatal violence. A time of mass shootings and the Me Too movement. There is a phrase for those of us who entered ministry at this time. They say, "I have been formed in the storm." But my body has another name for it: holy rage. And from that chaos, confusion, and cataclysmic storms that we all have been formed in this time, a nagging voice, the one that is experiencing that holy rage in my body, has been anxiously fretting, usually in a very shaky tone of voice, saying, "Do something, say something, do something, say something." I suspect some of this aching desire to tend to the hurt in this world comes from the spiritual and moral scaffolding of our faith. Because as UUs, we believe in deeds, not creeds. This means that our faith and spirituality is deeply incarnational and based in this world here and now, not trying to get to or avoid going to someplace else. As UUs, our collective call is for a communal salvation, a world of interwoven liberation and wholeness that knows in our bones our destinies are inseparable. A salvation that can be found in our daily actions. As UUs, we experience hope as a spiritual discipline, committed to taking action for love and justice in a time that demands staying responsive and relevant to the needs of our time. And beloveds, there are so many unmet needs at this time. So no wonder my UU heart kept beating and bleeding. Do something, say something. And it took some time for my heart to realize that the sacred task of finding and sharing the liberal prophetic voice of my faith the voice that makes me a UU, the one that can say something to do something, that voice needed my ears. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition has historically been a very verbal one, and it has not hesitated to speak out with holy rage at the moral injustices across time. UUs have been practicing social justice in the public square by engaging in public witness for generations. And my UU heart really wants to honor this legacy. So I wanted to know, how did our faith ancestors in our family tree find the courage to do something, to say something, to boldly assert the prophetic voice to resist injustices around them? And I have been surprised to find that prophetic leadership is less about public speaking. It is more about public listening. The Unitarians and the Transcendentalists in our faith family tree rooted their social justice activism in the sacred work of speaking from their truest selves, the part of us that has inherent dignity or divinity. And to do this, they tuned in and engaged in the spiritual practice of deep listening. Deep listening that was not only a tool for discernment, but actually a transformative place. A place where embedded, complex knowings, curiosities, and emerging answers within a community opens us up and can sustain us with spiritual wisdom. A place where deep healing and love and justice can abide. I long to know that place. And I long for you to know that place. And I long for us to become that place. So I wonder, beloveds, what if putting our faith in action doesn't only start with doing something and saying something? What if embodying our faith starts with deep listening? Who would we listen to? And how would we hear it? One of the most prophetic spiritual activists and moral anchors for the 20th century was American Baptist preacher and Black Southern theologian Howard Thurman. As a contemplative mystic, Howard Thurman insisted that at the heart of all social activism was this transcendent place, a place we can all spiritually nurture, a place that is spacious enough to be human, to be able to hear ourselves and hear one another in the collective call to seek the wisdom that we need to solve our most pressing, complex, systematic ills. Deep listening is that place. Howard Thurman founded the Church for the Fellowship of All Peoples in 1944, which was the first interracial and interfaith congregation in the United States. There, he urged his congregants to listen to the sound of the genuine by engaging in the spiritual practice of deep listening, a practice he famously expanded upon at the 1980 commencement address to Spelman College. These are Thurman's own words, in which he consistently modeled and molded his ministry. There is in every person something that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine. There is something in you that waits and listens to the sound of the genuine in yourself. Nobody like you has ever been born, and no one like you will ever be born again. You are the only one. Cultivate the discipline of listening to the sound of the genuine in yourself. There is also something in everybody that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in other people. I must wait and listen for the sound of the genuine in you. Now, if I hear the sound of the genuine in me, and if you hear the sound of the genuine in you, it is possible for me to go down in me and come up in you. So that when I look at myself through your eyes, having made that pilgrimage, I see in me what you see in me. The wall that separates and divides will disappear, and we will become one. Because the sound of the genuine makes the same music. The sound of the genuine makes the same music. Beloveds, we are living in a time when it has been very difficult to hear that music. The current conditions of massive inequality have become barriers to hearing the sound of the genuine, both inside ourselves and in one another. It is hard to hear the music of our faith when our hearts are weary and breaking from all that loud noise, of violent, trauma-inducing fear-mongering, and oppressive devastation. Recommitting ourselves to theologically grounding our liberal prophetic voice begins with deep listening. For who and what we listen to is who and what we become. Deep listening is a ministry of presence that is available and accessible to us all. As a spiritual practice, tuning in to the sound of the genuine moves us beyond the people that we wish to become. It actually guides us to the places we need to co-create a more healing and liberating world. A place where love and justice abides. A place where the broken and grief-stricken can lament and heal from the injustices and suffering in our world. A place where compassion can be offered so that we each can speak our own truth and discover new possibilities of what could be. Possibilities that connect us to our wholeness and our holiness. Possibilities where the sound of the genuine can surface in a transcendent way and can sing. Unitarian Universalists, we are called to be a people of deep listening. To do this, we must create and cultivate hospitable conditions so we pay attention to our bodily sensations and call on deeper ways of knowing to discern the present and honor our interdependence. As a spiritual practice, we collectively engage in deep listening when we enter ritual time by lighting a chalice, be it for a Sunday worship, at a small group gathering, or in a coming-of-age program. Outside our UU spaces, deep listening can happen when we find ourselves communing with the trees, reading a beautiful poem at a recovery meeting, being moved to tears when listening to a psalm. We find deep listening when we meditate, do yoga, and pray. As a co-creative sacred encounter, deep listening is any spiritual disposition of listening to that mysterious presence in our lives, the one that transports us to a place where deep wisdom reveals itself. The place where we can tune in enough to hear the music behind the words in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. We need this place if we are going to do something and say something, because we need justice making that will stay steady in the storm and anchored in our faith. For it was there, in that place of deep listening, where I experienced a shift in my own genesis, to not just use, but actually hear the prophetic voice inside. Being formed in the storm threatened to drown out the sound of the genuine in me, with moral panic shouting, "The end must be here." But with deep listening, I found another place, a place that had a voice, calming my fears and quenching my tears, whispering, "The beginning is near. The beginning is near." And that led me here, to all of you, where together we deeply listen to our shared purpose, embodying the values of our 11-syllable faith. May we tune in to the sound of the genuine. May we turn towards one another. Deep listening will take us there, and together we can hear its call, singing. May it be so.
It's a treat to be a stop on your ministerial journey. We close with "Voice Still and Small," the song that Brigida was quoting, by the Unitarian Universalist minister John Corrado. Before we sing, let's listen to the melody once all the way through with the lyrics up so that we can imagine what they might sound like. We don't sing this one a lot. Let's rise in body or spirit. Once more through. Thank you all.
Come and let us listen to one another with coffee. Adult and children's activities begin at noon, and we hope you will meaningfully connect with some coffee in the Johnson Room. Today's closing words are mine. Let us go forth, listening deeply. For the prophetic wisdom of our faith is not only spoken, it is also heard. May we each be the ministry of presence our world so very much needs, and may we do this faithful work together. Go in peace, go in love.